has plenty of great Vegeta moments, but few are more memorable than his rampage as Majin Vegeta in the Buu Saga. Watching the Prince of Saiyan's final hurrah as a villain is one of the rawest moments in all of, and it perfectly captures the internal tension that defines Vegeta's character arc uh, throughout. Despite Majin Vegeta's iconic nature, um, many fans aren't aware that the character's iconic monologue during his fight with Goku wasn't a direct translation. In fact, it took more creative liberties than the average scene. Uh, that said, as the franchise has repeatedly proven over the years, an inaccurate translation can sometimes be a good thing. Majin Vegeta's monologue was a product of English localization. While has been dubbed by many groups over the years, there's no doubt that Funimation's English dub of Water is the most well-known adaptation of the series, armed with the talents of voice actors like Sean Skemmel and VA for Goku, King Kai, and others. And Christopher Sabat and Funimation dub exploded in popularity in the United States, exposing Akira Toriyama's shonen franchise, and in many cases, anime to millions of fans who would have never seen it were not for the English translation. And as was the case for many anime localizations in the 20th century, the unproven track record of anime in the West, pressure on Funimation to make changes to a source material in hopes that the new product would resonate more with audiences. It's evident that this approach had the intended result, as was a massive hit with English viewers when it debuted on Cartoon Network's Toonami block in August 1998. Throughout Funimation's original dubbing of, they continued to make changes to the source material, including a major rewrite of Majin Vegeta's speech during his heated fight with Goku in the Buu Saga, that the monologue, which would go on to become one of all time, captures the Prince of Saiyans at his most vulnerable and his most villainous. I wanted him to reawaken the evil in my heart. I wanted him to return me to the way I was before. I was the perfect warrior, cold and ruthless. I lived by my strength alone, uninhibited by foolish emotion. But slowly, over the years, I became one of you. My quest for greatness gradually giving way to this life of mediocrity. I awoke one day to find that I had settled down, formed a family. I had even grown quite fond of them. Would you believe that I almost started to think the earth was a nice place to live? Do you understand now, Kekrot? And that's why I needed Babidi to set me free by releasing the evil in my heart. He has freed me of these petty attachments and fit. And I'd have to say it feels pretty good. Even decades later, this Funimation-only speech, delivered wonderfully by Christopher Sabat, who had perfected Vegeta's vocal profile by this point in its localization, still resonates into the complicated character that Akira Toriyama developed throughout the series. However, as many fans over the years have pointed out, there are some notable differences between this speech and the one delivered by Vegeta in the original manga. Dragon Ball Z Kai is more faithful to the source material, but that doesn't make it better. The act of translation is inherently violent, and it is impossible to perfectly translate a speech between two languages
as different as English and Japanese. That said, adaptations like prioritize literal translation far more than the original Funimation dub of which purposefully took its dialogue in a different direction for the sake of Western appeal. That thanks to the English dub of as well as the English translation of the manga, Western fans are able to get a much better idea of Majin Vegeta's speech um, as it was written by Akira Toriyama. The translation of the monologue reads as follows. I just wanted to go back to being the person I was before. I wanted to go back to being the cold-blooded Saiyan I've been since the beginning, the one who didn't care about anything other than besting you in one-on-one. Uh, Gender combat, um, I wasn't happy, and I didn't realize it at first. But all of you had made me too peaceful. You had domesticated me. I suddenly had a family of all things, and it didn't feel so terrible. And I started to feel comfortable living on Earth, living out a life in serenity, but surrendering to Bobby D's magic was a price that I was willing to pay if it meant I could be my old self again. And as a result, I've never felt bad. This translation touches on uh, many of the same themes as the dialogue that appears in the original Funimation dub, but there are also some clear differences between the two. Monologue is more muted than the over-the-top delivery that appears in, and it takes away some of the inherent villainy that's overtly present in Funimation's first English localization, and deserves credit for its effort to remain faithful to the source material. After all, many fans would argue that the series' English dub is a superior product to the Funimation dub due in large part to how much it prioritizes staying true to Akira Toriyama's vision. However, there are rare instances where the act of localization can legitimately elevate a piece of art, and in the case of Majin Vegeta's speech, this may very well be true. At the same time, to make them Dragon Ball Z's original English dub highlights the thing that makes Vegeta great himself. Akira Toriyama will always be the preeminent authority on anything. The legendary author was the mind behind Son Goku's canonical journey until his death in April 2024. And as the series creator, his version of the story will forever supreme the issue of the building. And then again, wrote, all this being said, there is also something to be said for the successes Funimation dub. As well as the concept of localization itself. Localizing an anime is, when done correctly, an attempt to translate characters and their stories to a new audience with an entirely different frame of reference. In the case of Funimation's dub, made an honest effort to make the Z Fighters more relatable to Western audiences, and given the long-standing popularity of the series, it's inarguable that they succeeded in resonating with fans. And then listened to me resonating with fans. Adapting content for Western audiences was a risky venture that resulted in many mistranslations, and in retrospect, some of these and even cringeworthy. At the same time, this approach also spawned some of the most iconic quotes in the history of, none of which benefit more from Funimation's changes than Majin. Vegeta's monologue during his fight with Goku. Funimation regularly dialed up the heroic elements of purposefully making the shonen anime's dialogue and narration more similar to that of Western action in hopes that it would resonate with more of their audience. This often led to sentiments like good and evil being shoehorned into scenes. Similarly, the series also placed much more focus on each character's ego and sense of self, effectively making them minor caricatures of their Japanese counterparts. And although Funimation's approach to localization had mixed results, their tendency to emphasize the self is perfect for a character like Majin Vegeta, rather than opting for literal translation, which paints Vegeta as wanting to revert to a former state and removing him from his own desires with passive voice. You had domesticated me. It didn't feel so terrible. Uh, Funimation's dub doubles down on the Prince of Saiyan's self-destructive pride. All of Vegeta's statements in the Funimation dub are assertions of his deepest desires, not wishes to revert to a former state of being or give himself up to Embabity or, you know, no, the English dub makes it clear that the Prince of Saiyans wants desperately so to do the horrible things that he is doing without divorcing him from his love for Trunks and Bulma. And that it's Vegeta at his rawest and most honest. And regardless of its inaccuracy, Funimation's version of this speech captures exactly what separates Vegeta from his rival, an unyielding, all-consuming desire to live the life that he sees fit. And for that reason, it will always be a part of Sistery. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Have you ever watched a villain, unleash pure rage and thought that's the realest thing ever? And Majin being Vegeta, the proud Saiyan prince, turned into a rampaging beast by Bobby D's spell. And this moment in Dragon Ball Z's Buu Saga feels like it's the pinnacle of his character, a raw explosion of inner conflict. Millions love it. But here's the twist. It's not exactly as Akira Toriyama wrote in the original Japanese version and manga. The speech is straightforward, more about reverting to his old self. Funimation's English dub ramped up the drama, making it an iconic outpouring of pride and emotion. Why the change? Anime localization back then aimed to hook Western audiences. Dub stalwarts like Christopher Sabat delivered lines that captured Vegeta's fiery spirit, even if liberties were taken. Fans rediscovered the truth through Dragon Ball Z Kai, and manga translations. The source is mellow, focusing on being domesticated over time, and yet something feels missing in that version. Funimation's take emphasizes Vegeta's deep desires and stubborn ego. He admits wanting to be cold and ruthless again, while confessing fondness for his family on Earth, and it's villainous yet vulnerable. This adaptation turned a simple speech into a character-defining moment. Toriyama's vision is supreme, but localization can elevate art, especially for Vegeta, whose pride shines bright. Still, translation dilemmas persist across cultures. Remember, it's all fun until your dub voice actor outshines the original, like Vegeta outshone us all. Literally. Um, uh, with that said, thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you next time. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Have you ever watched a villain unleash pure rage and thought, that's the realest thing ever? Imagine being Vegeta, the proud Saiyan prince, turned into a rampaging beast by Babiti's spell. This moment in Dragon Ball Z's Buu Saga feels like the pinnacle of his character, a raw explosion of inner conflict. Uh, Millions love it, but here's the twist. So it's not exactly as Akira Toriyama wrote. Beyond WatchBot, in the original Japanese version and manga, the speech is straightforward, more about reverting to his old self. Funimation's English dub ramped up the drama, making it an iconic outpouring of pride and emotion. Why the change? Anime localization back then aimed to hook Western audiences. Dub stalwarts like Christopher Sabat delivered lines that captured Vegeto's fiery spirit, even if liberties were taken. Fans rediscovered the truth through Dragon Ball Z Kai and manga translations. The source is mellow, focusing on being domesticated over time. Funimation's take emphasizes Vegeta's deep desires and stubborn ego. He admits wanting to be cold and ruthless again, while confessing fondness for his family on Earth. It's villainous yet vulnerable. This adaptation turned a simple speech into a character-defining moment. Toriyama's vision is supreme, but localization can elevate art, especially for Vegeta, whose pride shines bright. Still, dilemmas persist across cultures. Remember, it's all fun until your dub voice actor outshines the original, like Vegeta outshone us all, literally. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time,